Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2379. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Delta, Colorado, where it's getting a little warm, with a very special guest by the name of Jared Gastineau. Jared, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yes, sir.
All right. Something you're used to doing, being around a lot of the machinery that you've been around in the high-performance cars, and we're going to be talking about that today, along with a very special build that you've done. Before I introduce you, though, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, Jared?
I'm really a down-to-earth guy. I'm pretty straightforward. Sometimes my wife will say I'm a little too straightforward, but I'm very straightforward. I don't beat around the bush, and that's what everybody seems to like. Is I just give them, good or bad, I give them a straight answer, a straight, everything, and then everybody just kind of gets to know my personality and rolls with it.
Well, lots of times that's pretty refreshing because there's nothing worse than being around people that you're trying to read them, I guess I should say, and figure out, well, what is this person really talking about, or what do they really mean? So I admire that in people when they're just straightforward and say it the way it is. And sometimes I would imagine maybe that comes across a little gruff with people, but once they get to know how nice you are, I would assume that all goes away, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's just, that initial, sometimes they're not ready for it. But once they realize, hey, he's pretty much just being a straight shooter and staying the way it is, they tend to get used to it very quickly and actually grow very fond of it very quickly.
Well, considering that you're building some incredible vehicles for people, I think that's the right way to go, because when it comes to having custom builds done, those of us who've done that, we like to know what's really going on, because you never want to be guessing at a build or what the builder's doing, that's for sure. That usually leads to a lot of miscommunication, expensive bills, and a lot of frustration. So, glad you are the way you are. Let me give you an introduction. Jared Gastineau is the owner of Mile High Muscle. There's the relationship to Colorado, where they restore and modify classic vehicles. Mile High is also an authorized dealer and distributor for many high-end parts they use on their builds, including Art Morrison Chassis. Art's, he lives right down the road from me. We're very close. I've known him for a long time. Gosh, best chassis in the world. Holly, Ride-Tech, Speed-Tech, Detroit Speed, QA1, and many others. Jared worked at a GM dealership in their performance parts division and is a certified Z06 technician. His shop does ground-up restoration work. They do chassis work, engines, interiors, paint, and has earned multiple awards for their amazing builds. He's a seasoned classic car restoration expert with years of performance upgrades. He founded Mile High Muscle in 2017 and recently built an incredible 1969 Chevelle that's the first streetcar featuring a ZZ632 motor. Holy cow. He owns a 69 Chevelle, or he owned a 69 Chevelle in high school, and that car is being restored in the shop as we speak. That's very cool. We'll be back in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsors, so give them a little love. Buckle up. We're at Mile High Muscle, and we're going to have some fun today. We'll be right back. Years ago, when it was time to renew my collector car insurance policy, my carrier's rates went up. Way up, but my usage was the same and I never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. So what's with that? So I turned to American Collectors Insurance. Has your collector car insurance recently raised your rates for no good reason? Tired of paying an annual membership fee? Then it's time to look around and call American Collectors Insurance. I shopped around, I asked friends for recommendations, and found a winner that I can trust. And boy, I'm glad I did. I saved hundreds of dollars every year and slept better at night knowing my baby was properly insured. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting vehicles since 1976. They provided me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by their history of taking great care of their clients. What could be better than that? So give them a call and ask for a quote today. 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love like I did with American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. They're talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and firsthand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. So, Jared, we are back. So I want you to take me on a little bit of a journey back in time that got you to where you are today with your shop. When did this passion for cars start for you? A little bit about what you've done. Then we'll talk about the shop you have today and specifically a build you recently did that is, how dare I say, kick ass. I don't know any other way to say it. But let's talk about your past a little bit first. How'd you get into all this?
Well, back then, I mean, I'm not extremely old, but I'm not a young pup either. You know, you were little, and my dad would ask me to change the oil on his El Camino, or replace the starter, or change some spark plugs, stuff like that. And I seemed to like it. And then growing up, you did a little bit more here and there. You get to high school, and then everything accelerates when you get your driver's license. I hung out with a bunch of buddies that were into cars. One of my good buddies actually has a shop as well, and he's doing extremely well. All of us hanging around, being crazy back in the day, we've been able to actually make a career out of this, so it's been really cool. Moving forward out of high school, get in the real world, you start getting jobs, and I worked for my future wife. I've been married with her now for 25 years. But
congratulations.
Thank you. I took a job with her family here in town, a family-owned business, and they had a little repair shop and an alignment shop, so that's kind of where I got my feet wet doing alignment work and understanding suspension geometry. And I did that for about 10 years, and there was an ad in the paper at the local Chevy dealer, and they were hiring, and I figured, what the hey, right? So I went down there and told them what I could do with what credentials I had, and basically walked on. And it didn't take very long to move up the ranks and do this and that. And they saw that I had a passion for the performance side, so they pushed me to get my certifications and training on the GM performance, especially the Z06 Corvettes and whatnot. And I did that, and like I say, I had a very, very good career there. Met a lot of nice people. I do a lot of business with them today, and they've been very supportive of what I've done and what we've been able to accomplish. So nothing but kudos to them on that. And that's also the reason why I started my own shop. My current partner was a customer there and still is, and he had bought this certain Chevelle off the internet, off of eBay, and it broke down on him. And he didn't know anywhere else to go, so he brought it to the dealer and asked if there was anyone there that could work on it, and they chose me, and the rest is history.
That's pretty cool start to something that you started with Mile High Muscle in 2017. So you've been in business for about 6 years now, which is tremendous.
Yes.
And I would imagine, I think about the last 6 years, last 10 years, the craze into classic cars, it just keeps building and building. And for a long time, people said, oh, well, young people aren't going to be into these cars anymore. But I don't think that's true. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. So when you started your own business, what was the focus at that time? And how has that, if it has changed over time, bringing us to today from what you're doing? Did you always want to just build custom cars like resto mods and work on people's cars?
It was always kind of a dream, but it takes a lot to make that work. And like I said before, I met my future partner, and he saw the potential and the talent. And we had a sit down, and he just said, hey, what about doing this? And I said, well, it'd be really cool. I've always wanted to, but I have kids, another one on the way.
Right. Yeah.
It's a dollar and cent thing. It's not a I can't do it. It's I don't have the credentials right now to do it. And here at the dealership, I come in 8 to 5. I can pretty much do everything in my sleep and go from there. And he just said, well, I'm going to help you. So we started looking for property and found a piece of property here in town that was a very good deal, purchased it, and we basically started the company like we start our builds. We started from the ground up. There was nothing here, and we've had to do everything here to get to where we're at today. And we're still not done. We're still growing and expanding and investing and doing this and that. But it's been basically the best way to describe it is taking an old hot rod or muscle car and having a vision and starting from the ground up and build it, and slowly it takes shape, and then you've got something. And now we're really starting to gain a lot of traction and really get a lot of serious clientele calling, asking, doing this, doing that. Meeting here today is from all this hard work that we put in. So.
Yeah. Well, it's tremendous. Really fortuitous to meet somebody like that can help you on one side of the business. You've got skill sets on the other, and together you combine to bring a business together. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it is a lot of hard work. It'll always be a lot of hard work, but so rewarding and so wise to start off by having your own shop, being your own landlord in essence, and creating what you're doing. So I think it's a wonderful story. My hat's off to you and your business partner for what you're doing. Yeah, I know we're going to talk a little bit later about a specific build, and it's a car that brought you and I together. But before we go into some of the other questions here, can you talk a little bit about all the different things that you do in your shop? Because when I look on your website, there's quite a nice list of things, and I mentioned it in your intro, from restoring cars from the chassis up using Art Morrison chassis, which is, I think, one of the best. Engines, interior work. I mean, there's a lot of these different components. So are you kind of a beginning to end type shop?
We are. We do it from beginning to end. We also, someone comes in and they maybe can't do that beginning to end, but they've got a real decent ride and they want to upgrade, like, maybe the suspension or put air conditioning in it, or even fuel injection. I mean, fuel injection these days is the hot conversion, whether it's, putting in a crate motor from the big three or just a Holley EFI swap. People are really into that, and they're making these engines run so much better. It just blows my mind every day how big this industry really is. Yeah. And it's mind-boggling. We've got 2 shops here on the property, and we're full to the max of everything between full builds and little swaps and little this and that. We've got a all original GTO in here that's just needing some fit and finish work done, because the body gaps aren't quite right. So we do it all, and trying to get all of that under one roof where you can control all of it is also a very tall task too, because there's just so much involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Have you had challenges with finding great employees or associates? Because it's something that's a reoccurring challenge. And of course, we don't even talk about COVID. Let's put that in the rearview mirror way back down the road. But is that an ongoing challenge for you? Because I've heard this from a lot of people. I've had lots of restoration shops, from very, very high-end shops that do Pebble Beach type work all the way across the board. Is that still a challenge today, or have you been fortunate to find a great team?
It is. I mean, as of today, we do have a great team, and I've had to juggle pieces here and there. It's just the way it is. And I've talked to, all of my vendors and whatnot, and I have friends in the industry that have shops, and we've discussed it, and everybody is the same. It's like, everything goes great. And then, next thing you know, you're having to make a few changes here. And it is really hard to get good quality people. The main part of it is ones that are really dedicated to their craft and their workmanship, and they want to, they just want to do a really good solid job and be proud of it, not just showing up 8 to 5 and, punching a time clock. It's just really hard to find that. And when you do, you just realize how blessed you are. And actually, as of today, we are that way. And I could use probably 3 or 4 guys or gals with that skill set and that dedication and work ethic to help me even get even better and further. But it is very tough.
It's an ongoing challenge. I think it's that way in any business. It just seems like since the COVID situation, so many companies are challenged by finding great people. It's kind of changed, but I think there's a lot of young people these days out there, and I've been associated with groups like Tech Force and RPM Foundation and McPherson College, and they're putting out people. I think young people are realizing that there's real viable careers in these worlds. You don't have to go to a 4-year college if you don't want to. You can go and be trained, or even do intern type ships and learn. And there's just so many opportunities out there, and you get to work in a field that you're passionate about, like you and I do, right?
Yeah, school's going to be starting up here in the next few weeks, and I just spoke with the automotive director for the local trade school that we have in town, and I said, hey, if you've got any students that would like to come out and do some internship during the school year, let's talk, because we got a lot going on down here. And I just explained to them, we're doing body work and paint, we're doing custom suspension, custom tuning. We're doing this and doing that. We're modernizing these, 50-year-old muscle cars, getting them into the 21st century. And it's really something cool. And when people come in the shop, they're just like, oh my God. And
Candyland.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Yeah. Associating with trade schools and local community as well. It's really, really cool. Has there been somebody in your life as you've built your career and your business that's been a great mentor? I mean, it sounds like your business partner is a great example of that.
He really came around in my life. I didn't know that I really needed that direction, but I guess I did. And what a learning experience, and everything he's told me, I mean, just to a T, be ready for this, be ready for that. This is what's going to happen here. This is how you handle that. And it has, and it's just, and he told me just last night, I told him, I was getting ready to do this today. And he said, just so you know, this is just the start of it. I mean, we built something that's, one of a kind that's really popular, and everybody's got a lot of questions about, but it's just going to make you and make the shop and all the guys that work there go to a different level. That he goes, I expected it to be there, but I don't think you have. And I said, no. And he's got a larger plan, and everything that he's told me, it's come true. And I haven't been able to see it. He has, and he's just sitting back going, I told you.
You're very fortunate, but I think you know that, Jared, right?
Oh, it's like I said, I pinch myself every time I go to work. And there's days where, yeah, you're a little frustrated at stuff because something might not happen, the way you think it should. But 98% of the time, I still pinch myself every time I go to work. So,
well, that's what this show's all about. People that have figured that out in their lives and wrap their passion into their careers and their businesses. So you're living the dream for sure. But as you mentioned, there are days where there might be a challenge, and I do like to ask people about this. What would you say has been maybe your biggest challenge, but when you look back, you go, well, I'm kind of glad I had to go through that because it taught me a really valuable lesson?
Well, my biggest challenge is, I would say it's easy if we were to go in and buy a existing company that was turnkey, already had the clientele, stuff like that, and there's probably not a whole lot of speed bumps in the road. But when you literally start with an empty 5,000 square foot building and have to start, putting equipment in, doing this and doing that, and everything. I mean, we just little over a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we expanded, we bought a second building to have, put on the site, invested in a state-of-the-art paint booth. And the challenge is, I hate to say it, living during and post-COVID, getting equipment here, getting the contractors here,
supply chain,
and still trying to run a business because, everybody sees what we do. They want it, and they want it fairly quickly. And you just have to have that talk with them. It's like, hey, we're not going to get it done very quickly because there could be something really tiny that's going to throw everything in a behind. So, definitely the last few years have made it hard, but I'm also very glad that we did it. We got started before everything really got crazy to where we were ahead as far as dollars and cents, because if we would have started, I would say maybe 6-8 months later, it could have cost us double.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, it's taught a lot of people some really valuable lessons in positive ways, although it's been a challenge. But the supply chain issue, which is still there, slowly kind of grinding out. But it's been something that everyone's had to deal with. So great learning lessons. Well, let's get into this build.
Sure.
And I talked about this at the beginning. This is a 69 Chevrolet Chevelle. Now, I want you to start off by talking about the Chevelle you had as a kid that perhaps, and I mentioned you still have it, but also this build with this motor, holy cow, 1,000 horsepower. But let's first start with your personal Chevelle, and then we'll work into the build.
Okay. So, in high school, everybody's getting their license. My best friend got his license about 2 months before I did, and his mom and dad had got him a 65 Mustang. and it needed a little bit of work. So they had a friend of theirs, put a pretty decent paint job on it because it was a little rough, and did some interior work to get him a decent car to drive for school. And so when it was my turn, I was the Chevy guy, still am. And my dad, he got me a '69 Chevelle, and being a high school kid, I'm surprised it stayed in one piece and I'm still here.
Yeah, we do some silly things when we're young.
Yeah, being 16, 17 years old, going out on the weekends and whatnot. It seemed like all my buddies around here, we all decided we wanted four-wheel drive trucks so we could go out and, have fun on the weekends. And so I had gotten my first job because he told me you need to get a job. So I got my first job, and I was working half the days at the local Ford dealer, just going down, emptying the trash, washing cars for them, and making a little bit of an income. I told him I wanted a truck, so he helped me get my first loan. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, this is great. I've got a pickup, I've got a Chevelle, I got the best of both worlds. And, we got home and he asked me for the keys to the Chevelle, and I didn't even think about it. And I just gave them to him, and he goes, "Thank you very much." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you can't have both, son."
Oh,
and
oh,
I'm
wait,
I was like, "Really?"
Yeah.
And so little did I know that he decided to put that car away. And we worked on it a little bit, kind of father and son just goofing off. And he put that car away for a reason, and that's why it was in such good shape when we decided to finally look at it. I promised him, I said, "Dad, one of these days we'll get the car done. We'll get the car done." And, life happened, and, 20 years goes by and the car's still not done. And, we started having some success down here. And he decided, "Hey, let's do some work on the car." And I said, "Well, Dad, I'd love to, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of busy. And, tell you the truth, I can't afford to do it for you, and you can't afford me to do it for you." So he just said, "Well, we'll just see what we see." And then he's had some health issues the last couple years.
Oh,
and
sorry.
after we had built this featured '69 Chevelle, my partner goes, "Hey, what are you doing with the other car?" And I said, "I don't know." And I just told him, the story. My dad can't afford to do it. I'm too busy and really can't afford to pay my guys to do it. So I don't know. He goes, "Well, what if we just build it and build it the way we want to do it and use it to market the company?"
Oh, there you go.
And I said, "Okay, I'm all ears."
Yeah.
And, and this is the same man that owns the blue '69 Chevelle.
Okay.
That was built, first for him years ago as a customer. Now he's an important partner. And when we got GM on board to do that engine and whatnot, he said, "Okay, we're going to do this and do it right and use it to market the company." So,
Yeah, nice.
But anyway, back to this one, he just said, what do you want to do on this car? And I just said, "Well, I want to go a little bit different. If we're going to do this and do it the right way," I said, "I want to go as modern as I can, go an LS, do a twin turbo setup, put a chassis under it, shave everything, get it, slick down as modern as we can get it." He goes, "Okay, when do we start?"
Oh, cool.
So we started the car, and I told my dad exactly what we were doing with it. And I said, "You're going to get to go for a ride in it, and you're going to get to drive it when it's done." And he was just completely blown away. So it took a whole different meaning to me now that we're going to be able to, I'm going to be able to come through on a promise.
Yeah.
And share this with him. And at first I wanted to sell the car, try to recoup some money and do something else. But with his recent health stuff, it's like, what? We're going to use it to market the company, and it's a part of the family, so it's not going anywhere.
Wow, what a heartwarming story. That's just awesome. There's going to be some big smiles. Do you have a end build date when you think that car will roll out?
We're going to try to have it ready by February.
Oh, not too far. Okay.
Not too far. We'll see. My partner is from Detroit, and he's always been wanting to go back and do the Detroit Autorama show.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. But we've started it, and we actually are doing a whole series and putting it on our website of how we do things. And we started with a pretty good car. Not all of them are. This one, thank God, was. We took it down and had it chemically dipped like you see on TV for graveyard cars. It came back and it just needed a little bit of patchwork and stuff like that. And we've had customers come in and they're looking and seeing exactly what we do. And, they're just blown away the attention to detail. And we just tell them, "Hey, this is, if you want to do it correctly, this is what you need to do. And they've just been like, wow. So we've gotten, everybody on board. I've talked to, frame suppliers. We talked to GM on this LSX that we're putting in it, our wheel company, tire company, brake company, told them the story of what we're doing, and everybody's on board. So it's going to be a fun build. So I'll get to drive a version of my high school car.
Yeah.
But main thing is it'll really showcase what this shop and my guys can do. Yeah. So
That's
everybody's very, very happy about it.
Yeah, this is really awesome.
Parts are coming in and they're like, is this for the Chevelle? Yeah. Oh my God. Yep. So it's really cool.
Wait. Well, I can't wait for you to send me pictures. I typically ask my guests, I want to kind of crawl in their head and ask them about being a car. I'm going to combine this with the story about this 69 Chevelle that got us together today, because I think in a way,
sure,
this build is kind of you. I know the other car is you and your dad together, but let's talk about this thing. It's got a 632, 1,000 horsepower. I mean, you sent me some pictures. I'll put some pictures on Jared's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website, along with a link to a video about the car. Tell me about this thing. This thing's a beast.
Well, I mean, in April, GM named it a monster Chevelle. They did an article on the block about it. And like I said earlier, I had built this car. This is the car that broke down at the Chevy dealership many years ago. And I had it there. We put a crate motor in it there, and did a few things and got it up and going. And that's what got my really good friend / business partner hooked. And, up until about 2.5 years ago, the car was still the same. We would do well at shows with it, and just go blow the tires off with the engine that was in it at the time. And he had commissioned us to build him a second Chevelle, and we put an Art Morrison chassis under it and made it just a work of art. And he just started looking and asking the questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I actually opened my mouth and I said, well, we're going to make a better car, because the other car, I think we've pretty much used everything we need to use up, and it's time to retire it. And that, he'll laugh about it, and he laughs about it every time we bring it up, but it really did something to him. And about an hour later, he calls me up and he goes, we're not retiring that car. We're going to rebuild that car. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And he goes, so what do we need to do? And I said, well, what are you wanting to do? And he goes, well, I want a bigger motor. And I said, well, you've got a GM 572. I said, that's enough. And he goes, yeah, but there's always something bigger. And I said, well, they make a 632. So he goes, well, what's it going to take? And I said, well, we got to start all over and put a good backbone in it and engineer this car. So we started the car. We actually bought a 632 from Blueprint Engines, and those guys are great, and got the car done. And we debuted it fall of 21 out in Scottsdale at the Good Guys show at Westworld. And that was about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after GM had unveiled the ZZ 632 at SEMA. We rolled up and we were on display with our chassis vendor, and we were right across the aisle from Chevrolet Performance.
Nice.
And, those guys kept coming over because they saw the magic numbers on the fenders and saw the motor, and kept asking questions. And by the end of the show, we're talking with them, and they said, hey, what's it going to take to put our bad boy in that car? And I said, well, we just bought this one. We really can't afford to buy another one. And they said, well, we want you guys to come out to PRI and meet some of our reps and whatnot, and we'll talk. And they actually made us a really good offer that we couldn't refuse. And we just thought about it, and it's like, that's a lot more than what we envisioned doing as far as dollars and cents. But it's like, you know what? It's going to be worth it, because we've already got the car, we've got this, we've got that. It's going to be, the first street car with this motor. The possibilities are just endless. So we signed up for it. And then, like everyone else, we had to wait, because they were, facing some, supply chain issues, and they were working some little issues out in the R&D center with it. But we got it and put it in. Only thing we had to do is basically rebuild the hood because of the different height of the motor.
Yeah, there's a little scoop on the hood, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely a scoop on the hood, but and that was some of the talks that we'd had with GM. They asked us, what are you guys doing here? What are you doing there? So I had to, tell them how we engineered the car and what that car could handle and everything. And they loved the story of how we met, how we started the shop, and it was great. And then we got the call that our motor was here, and we went and picked it up, and then we just went right to work getting it ready to go. And we did a whole install series that you can catch on our website. And we went through everything about, the height differences and challenges and header, having to make headers for it because you just can't buy headers for that engine. So it was really a good thing. And then next thing you know, everybody's calling, is it done? Is it done? We need to do some shoots on it. In April, we went out to Las Vegas for LS Fest, and everybody goes, well, that's not an LS. Well, it's got a lot of LS architecture, and,
Yeah.
and they allowed us to bring it out. So we debuted it out there, and it was a hit. And then after that, we went out to Burbank and did some stuff with the guys from Autotopia LA. Sean and those guys were just amazing. Took the car out, in Burbank and just disturbed the piste as much as we could. Went down Santa Monica and took some great shots down there. And we even had a few off days, and we love the military. We went down to, Long Beach and talked to the curators at the Battleship Iowa down there and got some really cool pics of the ship. And next thing you know, we're going to be going back down to Burbank in September to do some more stuff. We've got some other commitments across the country with the car. I had no idea that, just putting a unicorn engine in a car would be as big as it is. And it's just, everybody, I've got people calling all over. How'd you do this? How'd you do that? And I had no idea. I have a customer right now that lives in Alaska, and he was fortunate to get serial number 2 on those ZZ632s.
Oh, wow.
And he called his engineer back, and they said, who do I need to have this thing installed? And obviously, our name came up. So next thing you know, I'm talking to a gentleman that's got serial number 2. And so that one's going to go in a very special build coming up. So we got ZZ632 Part 2 coming, later this year. So,
yeah. Well,
it's just been...
know. Yeah, it's been a wonderful deal. And again, I'll put links to all this on Jared's show notes page so you listeners can see this thing. And we were chatting earlier, you painted it a beautiful blue color. It's a Maserati color, but the thing just is awesome. It looks like it should be period correct for a Chevelle of that era because it's just, one of those wonderful blues. So my hat's off to you and the team of what you've done. Yeah, you never know what one build, where it could take you. And I guess you're getting a wonderful lesson on the benefits of all of this.
We kind of have a saying around here is you can't make this stuff up. And it's true every day because if we were to write an autobiography or whatnot, it just, everything that's happened, it's just what a blessing. And let me tell you, a lot of people, you see it with posts and whatnot. I'm going to say this, when we work with our partners, especially GM, good God, those people are so good to work with. It's just been one thing after another, just positive. I really have to give them a shout out because I was calling them, just like any customer. Hey, where's my engine? Hey, where's my engine? And, it was very, we were going, man, we got a lot planned. Is it ever going to get here? But, the reward, has just been, it's been well worth it. And I can't give them enough credit. They really designed a very, very good product with that. And it's not this thing that you're just scared to drive, that you can really just get in and drive the car and not worry about it.
Nice. Very cool. Well, I'll tell you, taking us on a wonderful journey today, and I can't thank you enough for sharing what's happening. The future looks very bright for mile-high muscle cars. Before I let you go, though, could you share maybe some parting words of inspiration that might inspire others who would love to be doing what you're doing or maybe want to do a build of some kind?
Sure. don't be afraid to have a dream, and definitely do not be afraid to chase it, because you just never know what can happen. There's a lot of really good things that can happen. And that was the biggest thing for me is that started all this. I was a little unsure, but I did have a dream, and I finally just said, you know what, we're going to run with it. And I told my wife, I said, it's going to be rough a little while, but I think it's going to pay off. And 7 years later, and that's what everybody says. When you start a business, 5 to 7 years.
That's a tough time. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's there. And, but yeah, just tell people, if you've got a dream, if you can live it, try. If you succeed, that's great. And even if you fail, because not everybody can get immediate success or anything like that. But at least if you try, you can't say, well, what if?
Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing is, you know what? It sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow that you might not succeed, but you could say, I tried.
Yeah, and you'll learn a lot along the way to improve in the future. Very
cool.
Very cool.
Well, and we learn every day.
No kidding. Well, I'll put a link to your website, easy to find, milehighmusclecars.com. I'll put a video on the show notes page, but you'll be able to find a video on his website, learn all about this build. And I want to do a shout out thank you to Ken Holyfield. He's the one that got us together today. So Ken, thank you for introducing me to Jared. Very, very cool. Jared, thank you for taking some time out of a very busy schedule and sharing what you're doing, all your successes. My hat's off to you and your team. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you. Sounds like I'll probably see you down the road at a SEMA show or some kind of a build show somewhere. Awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you know that Cars Yeah is in the top 1% of all podcasts based on listenership, according to Libsyn, the premier RSS feed for podcasts in the United States? That's right. Plus, DuPont Registry recommended Cars Yeah is one of their top 10 car podcasts for you to enjoy. Cars Yeah has experienced tremendous growth, plus your ads are evergreen, meaning they never go away. And more listeners find Cars Yeah every day for their daily dose of automotive inspiration. Do you want to expose your brand to a highly targeted list of automotive enthusiasts in a very unique and very personal way? Well, I can help you. Contact me, Mark Green, at mark@carsyeah.com or through the website at carsyeah.com today to learn more. I'm honored to say that my charity of choice here at Cars Yeah is Tech Force Foundation. They help young people find an education and career that aligns with their passions. For those who love cars, problem solving, and working with their hands, a career as a professional automotive technician is the perfect fit for a fulfilling life. We're all wired differently, and not every successful career demands a 4-year university. Technical education and the skilled trades matter, and we need qualified, skilled technicians to keep our vehicles rolling. Learn more about how you can support tomorrow's driving force and workforce of technicians at techforce.org, like I do here at Cars Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.